Hey guys, Akyomurasak here. Some time ago, I did a video on something called the culture war, where I tried to outline where the problem was with a certain group of people, how they're kind of, collectively thinking and being all about weird phrases, weird ideas, and how this is a problem in entertainment primarily. However, I kind of would like to rephrase my views a little bit, and I would like to point out that a lot of the problems we have nowadays, especially in politics, which seems to be the topic of everything literally everywhere, is not really a political issue per se. It's not really an issue of policy or an issue of left-wing, right-wing, partisanship, and stuff like this. It is a matter of culture. And it's a general, what seems to be like a societal problem and societal degradation. And I'm going to show you a couple of clips here, which I feel like amply demonstrate this and why I do not think any of these problems are fundamentally political problems even. But let's get started with this one. This is from the convention of the New Democratic Party in Canada, which, yes, it is a thing, apparently. They have this, from what I understand, every year. This one's from this year, and it just gets weirder and weirder every year. But let's jump right into it. Let's watch the video, and you'll understand exactly what I mean.
Microphone 1, then we'll go to microphone 3. Go ahead, Del.
Oh, sorry, I need to start from the beginning. It's very important.
There's a point of privilege on microphone 1.
So there, she says, there's a point of privilege on microphone 1. Point of privilege.
Then we'll go to microphone 3. Go ahead, delegate.
Yes, hello. I was standing here with my gender equity card
She has a gender equity card.
before you called on the previous speaker. That's my point of privilege that I would like to raise.
I will explain the speaking order, which is fixed, that I cannot amend, which is the pro-con rotation. You can move yourself up a line that you're standing in.
I am pro, and I was.
We went,
You went pro, con.
we went pro-con, pro, and my plan was to go.
So I'm trying to understand that the pro and con means basically clockwise and counterclockwise, but for whatever reason they can't really use these words, which I'm very confused about.
Con. The speaker at con mic 3 also has a speaking card.
Yesterday.
Okay, and here's the thing. They all have these equity cards, which basically summarize in the form of the color of the card how much of a victim, how much marginalized they are in society. I am not even joking. That is the thing.
This card was used in an inappropriate manner. And while I understand in Ontario we know this is equity, even if that, this was also used inappropriately in terms of gender.
It's a card about victimhood, but it was used inappropriately in the context of gender.
I want everyone to be mindful that these cards for individuals like myself who identify as a Black woman.
So here's the thing. She's not simply Black. She identifies as Black. Can you identify as a specific ethnicity? I don't think that's even a thing. Like, you are of an ethnicity. Like, this is a biological fact, right? This is something that people very often do DNA tests for instance. You cannot identify yourself as a member of a specific ethnicity. It makes no sense.
Have no value outside of this space.
Okay, and this is not the only scene like this. Basically, the entire convention was like that. And did you notice that there is a pattern in all of this? Did any of these people talk about policy? No. Did they talk about specific economic situations in Canada? Did they talk about amenities regarding these economic situations? No. All they talked about, and as I said, this is not the only situation. There were like 5, 6, or 7 of them. All they talked about was this. All they talked about was how marginalized they are, what kind of ethnicity they are, what kind of pronouns they have, what gender they are. It was constantly me, and literally nothing about the situation in the country and what they need to do, why they even have this conference. And eventually they created this thing with these equity cards, or that was from the beginning. I'm not quite sure. I'm not quite sure if I understand this correctly. But these cards then caused a lot of confusion because there was a situation with like a trans, with an Asian, with like a Canadian Asian trans person who wanted to use this equity card but couldn't because they were not. They could use it only in the context of their. See how confusing this is? They could only use it in the context of their ethnicity, but they couldn't use it in the context of their gender. So they couldn't rely on like how marginalized they are as a trans person to get ahead, like literally get ahead in the queue in front of a cis woman, because the cards were specifically for ethnic identity. Yes. So what this basically led to is not only a lot of confusion, but a lot of strife in the conference. And just like certain things that happened with, I think, the Democratic Party conference, I believe last year in the US, these people eventually started arguing not about anything that's happening in the country, about policy, about the decisions, about literally anything of like actual political import. They started talking about their personal identities and how high or low they are on this entire victimhood ladder, like how well they score in the victimhood Olympics. And I said at the beginning, this is nothing to do with politics, because fundamentally it has nothing to do with politics. None of this is political, although I understand that there are some people who want to claim literally everything is political. No, not everything is political. I understand you want everything to be political, but no, not everything is political. That's simply the reality of it. And a lot of these things are biological facts, and there's absolutely no reason to go with like I identify as, because they have no reflection in reality. Like, I understand you want to play these word games, but they get you nowhere. As I mentioned, they get you to more and more strife, arguing, and they eventually lead to situations like, I think this one's a little radical, but they lead to situations like this, where you have a scenario where you are supposed to save one of two people. And then you have the option, do you save the disabled gay white woman or the alt trans black man? Are you an ageist, transphobic, racist? Or are you an ableist, homophobic, sexist? Choose wisely, bigot. And this is the kind of problems these people deal with. These are not real problems. These are not day-to-day problems. These are not problems of like, how do I pay for rent? Do I need to get a better job to afford food for myself and my family? If I have kids, God forbid, in some cases from what I see here, if I have kids, am I able to feed the kids? Am I able to afford the education? And these things then, kind of translate directly into like policy issues people would be interested or not interested, in favor of, against, right? Like, okay, education. Should education be free? Should it be common to everyone? None of these things were raised in the clips that I've seen. If it's only been constantly talking about me, my identity, my ethnicity, my sexual identity, my orientation. All of them were constantly talking about themselves. And here's another video that I think it very much aligns with the first one, but you'll notice something else here with the person who's talking.
Why do you hate Trump? You seem young. Yeah. Well, I hate Trump because, well, he's doing everything. He's making it a crime to be trans. He's immigrate.
So what I noticed with this kid is that either he has ADHD or he's a really big fan of Dr. Pepper. He's probably drinking a little too much of it.
Deporting people who are like legal immigrants, and he's deporting people who aren't even immigrants. People who were born here.
That is not entirely true. No, that is not happening.
He's just doing all these horrible things, and he doesn't even he's denying climate change exists, and then
that part is actually true. Let's be honest here.
Dirtying the world.
How is he making it a crime to be trans?
I've heard that in an article and from some of my friends, but I don't know.
I heard this in an article from some of my friends. So this is not even information that he personally acquired. This is something he heard some other person maybe or might maybe not have read. Now, I kind of like that this boy is still being fairly open. Like, obviously, he's very militant, but he's still being quite open and honest about the fact, yeah, he doesn't know if this is true.
I don't know if that's true or not.
But he has heard that this is the case. So he's now convinced that this is the case because he heard it somewhere.
But I wouldn't put it past him. Are you trans?
Okay, so now he's assuming because Trump is that bad person and these bad things were being said and assigned to him, therefore they must be true.
No, I am not.
Okay. Yeah, I think there's still trans people. I saw a few in the mall.
I am pansexual, though.
Okay.
He is, I don't know, like 15, 16. He's pansexual. Okay?
Yeah.
And what does that mean?
It means that I don't really mind gender at all. If I like someone, I like them.
And that is just being a normal person, by the way. If you like someone, you like someone. If you like romantically a man or a woman, at the same time, you are bisexual. You are not pansexual. This is not a thing.
How many genders are there?
I don't know a specific number or anything. Yeah.
Like more than 2?
I would say so, yes.
How do you know there are more than 2 genders?
More than 50?
Maybe. I don't know.
All right, well, be careful.
Okay, so now we have... Okay, let's assume... I've seen like an article a while back which mentioned this was like in the 2020s or so, or before that time, that mentioned there are like 72 genders or something. That was, of course, quite absurd, and they were really... This was more kind of like a numerical article about like different quote-unquote biological states that you really wouldn't really call gender expression, or like at least in terms of actual gender, like social gender, you wouldn't be able to find 72 genders because that doesn't even make any sense. Like, how would you be able to identify yourself or someone else in 72 different ways? Again, that's not even possible.
Because your sign looks like a pro-life sign.
Okay.
Is that what you were hoping for?
No, absolutely not.
Okay. And why not? Why aren't you pro-life?
Well, I feel like abortions are a necessary thing. I mean, if someone isn't ready for a pregnancy, then they should be able to stop it, you know?
Okay, someone's not ready for a pregnancy, they should be able to stop it. Probably. I mean, it doesn't sound too bad.
Why don't they just not do the thing that gets you pregnant?
Well, maybe they don't have a choice in it. Maybe they were
They don't have a choice. So, like, okay.
raped.
Sure, but the majority of cases are women who just don't want the baby and, they consented to sex.
Well, in that case, maybe it was like an accident. They didn't mean for it to happen.
You were consenting to a sexual intercourse and you didn't mean for it to happen. Then you were not consenting.
I mean, they can, like, people are still just gonna make love and stuff, so...
But it's kind of like playing the lottery. You consent to win, you consent to lose. So if you're going to consent to sex, I feel like you should consent to the possible outcomes of sex, right?
I mean, I guess, but at the same time, like, if you're not ready for something like that, you shouldn't do it in the first place. I get that. But also, you might not have expected that to happen. So, I mean, people know that there's gonna be something that, like, if people expect that there's gonna be something, like, to stop the pregnancy if it happens, then they should be able to go to that solution.
Do you think that a baby dies in an abortion?
No, not really.
What happens then?
I mean, yeah. Come here, please. Yeah, okay.
Why do you hate Trump?
Sorry. So, as you can see, this is not exactly like a very high-level, high-bar philosophical discussion, and yet the interviewer lady here, she completely clears the dude. But do notice that this kid is super young. I don't know, he's like 16, 17, maybe 15. I have absolutely no idea. He's still a teen. He still has absolutely no idea about the world. He still has a lot to learn. And from what I can say, he's like, I don't know. So there is still some doubt, and I'm guessing he would be willing to learn. Maybe not from her, but from some other adults. But do notice that she basically clears his reasoning straight away by asking incredibly simple yet important questions, like about consent, about like responsibilities, about choice, about, well, in a way, free will as well. Like, if you agree to something, you should take the responsibility of that something, which is, again, a very basic thing you learn as you grow up. Now, here's the thing. The reasoning that this kid shows, this is unfortunately a reasoning a lot of the people from the first video share. And these are adults. We're talking about people in their 20s, very often in their 30s, and very often even older. So as I kind of hinted at the very beginning, this is really not a political issue. This is not a left-wing, right-wing problem. This is a problem of some people just not really using their brains, I'm sorry to say. Because these are not, how big philosophical questions. These are just very, very, very basic things you even learn at school if you go to high school. And you either have ethics or like basic philosophy, you do tackle these problems. You also do experience them on a daily basis as you grow up, as you get a job, start a family, start relationships, gain life experience. You eventually are exposed to a lot of these things and you learn while growing up. Now, what that basically tells me, and I'm actually very sorry for a lot of the people at this New Democratic Party of Canada convention, a lot of these people seem like they haven't really experienced life. A lot of them, I don't know, maybe they spend too much time online, which is what I very often see with people like this, but they don't seem to be life experienced, which is actually a very common phenomenon nowadays. Yeah, I do see it very often online with a lot of people. And, these people, on top of what I just mentioned, they do come up with all of these terms, identifying of a specific ethnicity. And a lot of these terms, I'm sure you've heard at least of some of them, stuff like Latinx, black bodies, I guess not. Two-spirit, maybe someone has heard two-spirit, no? Cis heteropatriarchy, cisgender, I'm sure you have. Minoritized, this is weird. Lived experience, just what I talked about. Allyship, very common word as well. Human spelled with an X. Black fatigue. Unhoused, what you will very often hear on CNN. Decolonizing, a very big thing recently. And a lot of these terms. Inseminated person, okay, stolen land, yeah, that has been trending a while back. And a lot of these people just come up with all of these words as a replacement for actual known language we can all agree on, which makes even conversation with them very, very complicated. And where do these words come from? These words actually come from academia, which right now I would say is an absolute spawning ground for all sorts of weird ideas. And demonstratively of that, we have this person here, Colin Wright. Colin Wright, I understand, is an evolutionary biologist, as his bio states here. No, I figured out by the context of many of his posts, but yes. He's an evolutionary biologist with a PhD. He's a scientist. And he's, I would say, a fairly smart person. So what he does, he very often brings up these articles from academia on Twitter and does like a psychological and kind of philosophical breakdown of what is happening. So we have this interesting article arguing that BPD, this is bipolar disorder, borderline, not bipolar. BP is bipolar. Borderline personality disorder should be queered. Yes, that we should be applying queer theory. And here's the reasoning. It starts from the claim that LGBTQIA+ people are diagnosed with borderline personality disorder at higher rates. Okay, so we have what's called a morbidity, then uses the sociology of diagnosis and queer theory to reinterpret the diagnosis itself as a product of stigma, norm enforcement, and insufficiently affirming care. It argues that clinicians are wrongly pathologizing identity exploration and self-expression that depart from cis-normative, we have a lot more words here to get through, cis-normative and heteronormative expectations, that even ordinary clinical judgments are being distorted by assumptions about appearance, gender expression, and sexuality. Yes, let's make already subjective clinical judgments even murkier by subjecting them to a queer theory reinterpretation. Progress surely lies in that direction, and he highlighted a lot of these terms here. And may I just refer you to the chart to the list from before, because this is a perfect example of this. None of this is specifically scientific. I would argue the majority of this is not scientific. It's simply using complicated vocabulary to build theories upon theories, none of which have any reflection in reality. And the thing with science is that you need to start with some kind of, well, you start with a theory, I'm assuming. You either start with theory or you start with a phenomenon that you observe and then you try to explain with a theory. Or you start with a theory and then you try to perform, different scientific experiments to confirm or disprove the theory. These are your options typically. In this case, there is no actual, there's no scientific basis for any of this. It simply does not exist. Because a lot of it, the majority of this, is basically sociology, built on top of presumptions, biased observations, and theories. You build one theory, then you repeat that theory so many times that you consider it being like an established theory, common theory in a field, or even a fact, even though it's just a theory and has absolutely no basis in any experimental data. And then you reuse that theory to create another theory, and then on top of that one, you create another theory, and then you do this thing that's called intersectionality, where you apply a theory from one field to something, not this intersectionality. I don't mean the sociological intersectionality. I mean the interdisciplinary thing. You apply a theory from sociology to medicine, for instance. It doesn't really work because in medicine, you need actual medical evidence. You need scientific evidence to either prove or disprove a theory. Otherwise, none of this makes any sense remotely. But why am I even talking about these things? Well, first to warn you how bad things are. Secondly, also to prove that none of this has anything to do with politics. It has everything to do with people just not really thinking too much, I presume. But I'm also talking about things like this because it does affect entertainment itself. In the past, we had the boomers. We had the super hyper religious boomers who were constantly booming and complaining about how Harry Potter and magic is satanic, how we have violence in video games. Well, now we have the opposite. Now we have people who have been brainwashed on social media and convinced that there is racism, sexism, ableism, pedo stuff, fascism, more words salad, problematic content in video games. How is this different from the past? It really is not. It's one religion replaced with another religion, and the common response here is obviously, bro, it's fiction. It's not going to harm anyone unless you have a problem with distinguishing fiction from reality. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is going to be a topic for another video, unfortunately. This one, that is all. I hope you enjoyed my ramblings, and I see you in the next one. Matane!